Being able to properly cite an Act of Parliament not only makes one sound smart or sophisticated, it also adds a binding authority to one's legal argument. Welcome to my Advocatus. In today's lesson, we are going to look at how to read a South African Act of Parliament. In South Africa, the legislature makes laws. At a national level, the South African legislature is known as Parliament, and it is responsible for making laws which are binding in all 9 provinces. For purposes of this lesson, unless indicated otherwise, we shall use the Employment Equity Act, 55 of 1998. A South African Act of Parliament will generally be broken down into the following parts. 1. Short title. This refers to the name of the Act. In this case, if you look close enough, you will see that the short title is the Employment Equity Act of 1998. Please note that if an Act has been amended before, meaning, if the Act of Parliament has been changed by Parliament, you will see a list of acts which amended it. 2. The next part is the long title. The long title is usually printed in bold. Please note that, even if the term long title is used, it is not a title at all. Instead, it is a short descriptive summary of the subject matter of the Act. In other words, it summarily tells us what the Act is all about. In this case, the long title of the Employment Equity Act 55 of 1998 is to provide for employment equity and to provide other matters incidental thereto. The other important feature is the preamble. You will notice that a preamble is not always present in all Acts of Parliament. When a preamble is necessary, it is usually placed after the long title. The preamble basically states the background, the circumstances, and reasons for the creation of the specific Act of Parliament. In this case, the circumstances that led to the creation of the Employment Equity Act include apartheid and other discriminatory laws practices in the South African labour markets. The third feature on an Act of Parliament is the enacting provision. This part indicates the competent legislative body that made or enacted the piece of legislation. In this case, the enacting power is Parliament. The fourth most important feature on an Act of Parliament is the table of contents. The table of contents offers more than a quick reference to the reader. It also works as initial overview of the Act of Parliament. A fifth common feature on an Act of Parliament is the definitions section. Definitions are usually found at the beginning of an Act. The definition serves as an internal dictionary for the specific Act of Parliament. Please note that some of the words that are defined in the definitions section may not be the same as the definitions used in the common dictionaries. For example, in terms of the Employment Equity Act 55 of 1998, the term black people means Africans, coloureds and Indians. This essentially means that, no matter how one may define the term black people, for purposes of Employment Equity Act 55 of 1998, the term black people means Africans, coloureds and Indians. A sixth common feature on an Act of Parliament is the purpose and interpretation section. The purpose and interpretation section are a common feature in post-1994 legislation. As the name of the section indicates, this section explains the purpose of the Act. It also gives an overall picture of what the Act wants to achieve and how the Act must be interpreted. After this you would normally find the content of the Act of Parliament followed by schedules. Schedules contain technical detail that will otherwise clog up the main body of an Act. The last feature is the short title and commencement. This is usually the last section in an Act of Parliament. It indicates the date of commencement. The date of commencement means the date the Act of Parliament has a binding force of law. It must not be confused with the date of assent. This is the day on which the bill from Parliament was signed by the President and became an Act of Parliament. The short title is the actual title of the Act of Parliament. To stay updated when new content is uploaded, Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. Thanks for watching my advocatus.